Wellspring of Joy, Lesson 3. Aunt Claire and Uncle Wen. Sawtooth waits patiently for the weekend to come. Meanwhile, he studies as much as he can for the rest of the following Wednesday. He is anxious. On Friday evening, Sawtooth arrives at his uncle and aunt's restaurant. He has never seen it this busy. The restaurant has been open for 3 years, and many families from nearby neighborhoods go there to eat. Uncle Wen and Aunt Claire are hard at work, speaking with customers and serving food. As soon as Aunt Claire sees Sawtooth, she comes over to greet him. She hugs her nephew and says, "Sawtooth, we are glad you could visit us this weekend." She invites him to sit at a table and serves him a delicious soup made with sour leaves from a tree grown in her garden. She returns to work. Sawtooth enjoys listening to the laughter and conversations around him. Then he overhears the words of a young woman at the next table. "It's too bad they may have to close this place," she says. "The landlords on the street are raising rents. Everything's becoming more expensive here. The bakery on the corner is gone. Have you seen what is being built in this place? My parents are closing their hardware store, 2 doors, down in a few months." Sawtooth feels sadness in his heart. Back at his uncle and aunt's home, Sawtooth asks them whether they are closing the restaurant. "We hope not," answers Aunt Claire. "The neighborhood is changing fast. Small businesses like ours are being pushed out, and big buildings are going up all over the place. There are people going around trying to buy every property they can get their hands on. But we are not giving up," says Uncle Wen, with a smile on his face. "Some of us are getting together to see what we can do about it." "How can you still be happy at a time like this?" Sawtooth lets out a sigh. He tells his aunt and uncle about his difficulties. "We understand how you feel," says Aunt Claire. "We came here a few years before your family. We worked hard. This is not the paradise we thought it would be, but it is our home. We should try our best to make it a better and kinder place." "And are you not sad?" Sawtooth repeats his question. "Remember, Sawtooth, we have talked about this before," says Aunt Claire. "True happiness comes from inside." Uncle Wen adds, "A couple of days ago, a friend told us about something he had read recently. He said we cannot have a joy without relying on God, and to rely on Him, we must be certain in our hearts of His love and power. I think we must be certain of His confirmation when we do what is right." Sawtooth thinks, "So I should be certain that I will do well in school if I study and try to understand everything." Activity 1. Divide into pairs, and each one of you take a turn reading the story with your partner. Discuss the following questions in your group. Write down the answers in full sentences. Number 1. For how many years has Uncle Wen and Aunt Claire's restaurant been open? Number 2. What does Aunt Claire do when she sees Sawtooth? Number 3. What does Sawtooth overhear the woman at the next table say? Number 4. How does Aunt Claire say the neighborhood is changing? Number 5. What are people doing with your properties in the neighborhood? Number 6. What question does Sawtooth ask his uncle and aunt? Number 7. What does Aunt Claire say about life in this country? Number 8. What does Aunt Claire say about true happiness? Number 9. What does Uncle Wen tell Sawtooth about joy, reliance, and certainty? Now read this exercise below and circle the answers for each. Number 1. To overhear means A. To hear something repeated over and over many times. B. To hear someone shout something loudly over all the other noise. C. To hear people around you say something without being part of their conversation. Number 2. Aunt Claire says that small businesses like the restaurant are being pushed out of the neighborhood. This means that A. With a lot of money are taking over the neighborhood. B. Someone is helping the restaurant and other small businesses move to new locations. C. There is not enough space for small businesses like the restaurant and they must leave. Number 3. Uncle 1 says that people are trying to buy every property they can get their hands on. This means that A. They are buying properties from the other people after shaking hands with them. B. They are buying as many properties as they can. C. They are only buying the most expensive properties. Activity 4. Make sentences with each of the words below. Joy, rent, conversation, landlord, property, certain, meanwhile, anxious, nearby, closed. Number 5. Next, complete each of the following sentences using one of the above words. Number 1. The two mothers had a blank about forming a children's class in their neighborhood. Number 2. He is blank that his parents love him. Number 3. Her heart filled with blank when she saw the smiling faces of the children. Number 4. Niaz blank the window because a storm was coming. Number 5. After a long day of work, Walid was tired and blank to get back home. Number 6. We visited our cousin who lived in a blank town. Number 7. As the owner of the apartment building, the blank made sure the elevator always worked. The old factory building has a sign on the door asking people to stay off the blank. Number 9. The landlord in that building is a bear and keeps the blank low. Number 10. When it started to rain, he went into the house to get an umbrella for his mother. But blank, the sun came out. Activity 6. The following are things of which we are certain. We are certain that we are created noble. We are certain that lying is wrong. We are certain that the earth revolves around the sun. We are certain that a seed has the potential to grow into a tree. We are certain that the power of love can overcome hate. We are certain that God loves us. Now add to the list. Activity 7. Divide into pairs and help one another memorize the following quotation after you have completed the sentences below. Pass beyond the baser stage of doubt and raise to the exalted heights of certainty. Number 1. We should blank beyond the baser blank of doubt. Number 2. We should pass blank the blank stages of blank.